اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهذه إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقداره العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ورضي الله تعالى عن آل السادة التابعين علماء عاملين وأئمة أربعين مجتهدين مقلديهم إلا يوم الدين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to yet another the Soullutionz podcast. I am one of your hosts, Imam Muhammad Abdullah Ameen, along with Amir Khalil Abdullahi, Imam Malik Robinson, and Ustad Brother Saleh Abdul Mujeeb. Tonight's discussion is on the topic, which is have marriage and children become a hustle. And this topic is very interesting because it touches on a broad scale of different not just different topics but different perspectives where you can actually tie this topic in to people's behavior and how we treat marriage and how we treat not just father and children but mother and children as well. The historical perspectives of what have crept into our society and has also crept into the Muslim community, into the Muslim Ummah. That one, in a nutshell, this topic is actually a hypothetical topic. However, as much attention can be extracted from the mannerisms as many of the topics like related to mahar or dowry. I know traditionally in some cultures, and I'm not going to name them cultures, but one culture in particular that I know, that the father asked for $20,000 upon marriage, $30,000 upon divorce. All right. Allah knows best how long the couple will be married, and Allah knows best how long if the husband who agreed to these terms will be in a position to even give $30,000 upon divorce. Now, how does this tie into a hustle? Also, I forgot to mention that either 12 ounces or 50 ounces of gold is also given upon marriage as well. All right. Now, how does this tie into a hustle? Right. Because the father who asked for $20,000 upon marriage, this is not just including the gift, but it's including the mahar. This is including the wedding. This is included the everything that's related to this union, right? Plus, the father gets something off top, right? And when some cultures, the father gets something off top, right? So, in this regard, this would be considered a hustle. Now, mind you, many of these marriages don't end in divorce. So it does not mean that the stipulations of the mahar is what saves the marriage. What actually saves the marriage or makes it quote unquote successful is actually the work and the value that each the husband and wife put into their marriage and having children and building, supporting each other, helping each other. This, this is what keeps them still motivated and together. It's not the idea of the mahar or dowry or responsibility of the husband or responsibility of the wife in a marriage. It's them working together. However, upon divorce, Allah forbid they have a divorce, then not saying that there's no cases where divorce haven't happened. There are cases where divorces have happened. What was the $30,000 given upon the divorce? Allahu Alam. However, a part of the $30,000, the father or the family, they get a cut of that. So in this regard, it's a hustle. Now, how does children tie into this hustle? All right, you have spousal support, you have alimony, you have child support, you have school, medical, all of these things that the best interest of the child, depending on who the child goes to. And I'm speaking in regards of a quote unquote fake legal marriage. And I said fake legal marriage because a government marriage or a state marriage or a commonwealth marriage, they're actually illegal marriages. You mean, because the Islamic marriage is the only true marriage that exists and that we live by. However, marriages are contracted in the state or in court, buying a marriage license and all of this type of stuff, because the government, they monetize it so they can tax it, right? So that they can tax it. And this happened within the 19th century. Before that, people was not getting married that way at all. They was not getting married that way, and it wasn't monetized. However, most of the people and the Muslims believe that if you don't get married this way, then the Islamic marriage is like having a girlfriend, and that's absolutely untrue. But the people who actually use marriage as a hustle are those who tend to benefit from the divorce, not necessarily the marriage, right? Some people, they believe that they protect themselves by having a prenuptial agreement. What a prenuptial agreement means is that everything you came into the marriage with, you keep. Whatever you and your spouse built within the marriage, that's what you divide, right? Even if your spouse didn't help you build nothing, if you know what I'm saying, everything was the husband's business, everything the husband established, and the wife, she gave her support, but she didn't give any type of monetary value in investing in the business, right? According to the conditions of what their contractual prenuptial agreement, everything that the husband makes in that business that he established after the marriage, the wife gets a part of that. So in that regard, so like for example, Michael Jordan. Now his first wife, she got paid. She never dribbled a basketball. She never shot a jump shot. She gave him like three children, maybe four children. Now, she was a freshman when my ex-wife was graduating out of high school. They both went to Finger High School, right? Finger High School in Chicago South Side, Roseland area, right? When Michael Jordan married this woman, I'm hearing I'm hearing stories from all of the old heads in my neighborhood that went to high school with her at that time, how her character was there. I'm not gonna put her business out there, but you know what I'm saying, she got a paycheck. She got half ownership of the Grizzlies. She, you know what I'm saying, she got like what, 200 something million or something like that. You know what I mean? And this was when Michael Jordan was still playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? She got the spousal support. She got, you know what I'm saying, all of this stuff. You follow what I'm saying? I remember when the youngsters in the neighborhood, they used to play ball in her mother's backyard, and Jordan used to come over there. And I think, you know what I'm saying, I think at this time it was, you know what I'm saying, the Gangster Disciples and the BDs, they was at war. and they shot up the alley. So then they took, he took the basketball court down. So that, so now this example is in regards to celebrities. How does this tie into uh, us as Muslims? How does this affect us as Muslims? Is the fact that one, so we pay a mahar, and we're supposed to, so we're supposed to provide for our families, and we're supposed to be fathers and take care of our children, and assist in taking care of our stepchildren. However, our stepchildren are not our responsibility, but we marry a woman with children. It's, we're not stepdads, we're fathers. So we're still out of rahma, out of barakah, we still gonna be men. We're gonna be providers, even to those that are not ours. We're gonna provide for them knowledge, provide for them financial, provide for whatever they need. Right now, any brothers who choose to take the position that they don't have, then it's not their responsibility, and they choose not to. Even if they take that position some way or another, they're gonna be providing for them children, right? And the fact that how this has affected the Muslims is that we tend to take on the way the kuffar view things in regards how social ills act in the society, instead of what the solution, which is the deen of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what it dictates or legislates on how we deal in these matters, and how we deal in these matters. Now, without a doubt, during divorce, in the case of divorce, the custody of the children after the divorce, if they stay with the mother until she remarries. Once she remarries, then the children either go to the father, or one school they go to the paternal grandparents or the maternal grandparents, and then if not so, then they go to the paternal grandparents. Then if not so, they go to one of the paternal aunts, and then after that they go to the father, right? Now, the whole purpose of the child custody is so that when after the wife remarries, and the children from the previous marriage, they go down into the categories of who gets custody, so that is for that main purpose, is so that she can be the wife to her wifely duties to her new husband. Right? This is the purpose of it, and this is what is part of establishing justice in Islam, because that's what Islam came to do. It came to establish justice, not just establish justice, but establish also it's to establish justice and protection. You know what I'm saying, and guarding and protecting the rights of the servants of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and those who are not Muslims, that are under that are paying the jizya. So whether they be Jews or Christians, if they under the protection of the Muslims, they have autonomy of the Islamic State. Then the Khalifa is also responsible for them as well, as long as they pay the jizya, right? If they accept Islam, then there's no jizya for them anymore after that. But so this is what we're faced with. Now, a lot of times, so we marry a sister, she may ask for a high mahar or a high dowry. So most of the time, and I'm giving husnul dhun that most of the time, most sisters who ask for a high dowry, their intention is not to be. They don't have the intention to not be in a marriage for a long time. Their intention may be so that they can be in a marriage for a long time, and they willing to work, work with their husband and deal with whatever test that Allah Ta'ala placed them with. And then you have some sisters, they may ask for a smaller mahar, right? So that if they do end up wanting a divorce or wanting a khula, they can easily either pay that mahar back, or they can make an offer to the husband for the khula, to where it's substantial for what the husband may agree to, because the point of the khula is that the husband has to agree to the they have to accept and agree with the ransom that is offered to them to release the wife from the marriage, right? You know what I'm saying? The husband don't always have to accept the mahar back. Now many of us, we actually do. You know what I'm saying? But if I done paid $500 or $5,000 or $2,000 or $300 or $200, and I'm gripping. You know what I'm saying? Then I was like, okay, whatever you may offer. Sometimes I may not accept any, may not accept any ransom. Just get out of my life. You're just free. You know what I'm saying? You don't worry about that. I give that to you as a gift, right? And you know what I'm saying, and freedom from the obligation of paying the ransom. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, sometimes that may not be the right decision, and sometimes, you know what I'm saying, I don't care about it being a right or wrong decision. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to hold someone up and feeling and believing that they're being oppressed in a marriage that they don't want to no longer be in, right? So you know what I'm saying. And even in that, even in a case like that, sometimes, like say for example, uh, a brother pays 1,500 for her mahar, and the sister pays it back, right? You know what I'm saying, depending on the ruling that they go by or follow as it relates to the iddat. Some sisters are married after another 30 days, or they after their 30 days of their waiting period, they're free from the marriage. Then they start looking for another husband. And it's been plenty of cases to where they already had a new husband lined up before they had even asked for the khula. And then you have those who take the correct ruling in regards to that period of a khula, for a khula, which is three cycles, three menstrual cycles, right? A lot of times, most times when sisters ask for a khula or ask for a divorce, a lot of times they don't really even want a khula or a divorce. They just need that attention from their husband to either pep up their game or do whatever it is that uh, they need to do to see what appeases them, right? They want their husband to appease them. A lot of times, a lot of times we as men, we don't fall into them emotional traps and do that type of stuff. Some of us do, right? Some of us as men do. I have to give the perspective in that way, because things do exist, right? And oh, so you ready to shake, or you want me to keep on going? I can't hear you. You muted.
I said, don't worry, I'm here.
All right. Yeah. So this is what this is what we think what we have to face with. So now, how does that apply in being a hustle? Because say the sister, she get a khula, and her 30 days, she has a one cycle iddat. You know what I mean? A sister who does that, they can get married 4 times in a year, or or 6 times in 1 year. It's cases would have take place, right? But still, you know what I'm saying, there's it applies in a hustle, because sometimes people, you know what I'm saying, sometimes they're used to the practice to where they ask for a khula and they just grant it. They don't pay a ransom or anything. You
Did
follow
you
what I'm saying?
question? Did you define the term hustle? Because that joint got a good, it got a positive and a negative definition.
Well,
I know
I
we're
had.
talking about the negative definition, but for some people, because sometimes some of the people they study what we're saying and tear it apart in order to like.
When I mentioned hustle, I had described the negative part, but I also described a little bit of the positive in regards to, what I'm saying, the husband and the wife building, right? When I was explaining the kufar's prenuptial agreement, the
Right.
prenup, right?
Right.
So you know what I'm saying. But you know what I'm saying. In Islam, we don't do prenups,
Right.
right? We don't do prenups. We don't do alimony or all the money.
You do have alimony. Alimony is while she's in Idda.
Yeah, well, that's not even really alimony. That's still maintenance is being taken care of.
Yeah, but
You
as
know what I'm saying?
during that
While she
waiting
while, she,
period,
while
she's
she's in
taken
a
care of.
while she's in iddah.
Yeah, that's a waiting period while she's taken care of. That's all I'm saying is being. I mean, I shouldn't compare it and give it that comparison with the kuffar, but that's our own form as Muslims, meaning you take care of your wife while she's in that iddah period. If it's from a talaq, from a regular divorce, if it's
All right.
from a khula, an annulment on behalf of the woman, then she's not receiving maintenance. The marriage is annulled. She still waits out the waiting period, but the marriage is annulled. And the man would, if he was living with her, he would pack up and leave out, or if she was living with him, she would return back to her, her peoples. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about because that's a big practice amongst the foreigners, what you open up with, asking for like 20 racks to get married and 30 upon divorce and stuff like that. And it really makes me wonder the mind frame, because even like in the West, we don't do it like that. We just say charge him a high dowry. If he's serious about the marriage, he's gonna pay the dowry, right? But the one thing that you find, especially when you look in the Quran in Surah Talaq, where Allah Ta'ala talks about that, one of the things that I think is the very first or the second ayat, Allah Ta'ala, tells the woman, basically if you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will take care of your needs. And so sometimes we place that emphasis on the money, which we're living in a capitalistic society. So therefore your attitude and your mentality, is already geared and inclined towards how can I get money? Because many of us, we're not looking at our Islamic heroes, like Khadija and others, or any of the righteous in the past, but we're looking at like the Kardashians and things of that nature. And you could tell that even the way that a lot of our young, how they dress and mimic the style of the kuffar, the girls with all this, the big snuffleupagus eyelashes and stuff like that. So not too far from the outward appearance is also inward in the mentality. And so then the approach that we take towards marriage ends up being almost the same. If men can get a prenup before they got married, Islamically, brothers will do it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Front, like, it's just women. And why is he getting a prenup? So you don't get my bread. I don't want you to have my money. You walk in, you came in with nothing. I want to make sure you walk out with nothing. Right? That's the mentality. So, a big portion of our problem and why we're having experiences in topics like this is because, we're putting too much emphasis on still mimicking the kuffar. We practice Islam as if Islam doesn't have its own rules and regulations. Our marriages are not the same as the kuffar. We love to have the big ceremony, the wife have on the long white veil and flower girls, and we'll be throwing dates instead of rice, you know what I'm saying, or throwing basmati rice instead of open bins, you know what I'm saying? And they
Throwing dates.
you know what I mean? They like, hey,
Throwing dates instead
everything
of
the
rice.
kuffar do, the only thing we do is we just Islamicize it, right? Even if you go back to when people used to use the whole jump into the broom method and things of that nature. And I think we have to develop a society and a culture for ourselves, to move away from that. But it's only hurting us. And the same thing that what you desire to get from them is also you'll also inherit the same problems they inherit too. You know that the disbelievers do have within their marriages. Adultery is very big. Muslims commit adultery the same way non-Muslims do, right? Like almost to the point now that you almost expect the person to commit adultery, right? Almost you just almost expect you're going right to the right, right in the door. You cheat, you know. These type of things, we taking on the same mentality. So, one of the things that the Sharia does support is a person getting married in order to protect themselves from committing adultery and fornication. You know how some people be condemning. The only time you really hear people condemn marriage and somebody getting married for that reason is because of the fact, especially when it's related to polygyny, right? Or someone getting married that they disapprove of them getting married. They be like, yeah, you need to control your nuts. And we see how that works out. You can start hanging out at the junior high school, and see how controlling your nuts is working for these people, right? You know, Another thing is that a woman that needs, she doesn't have no family, because one of the things our society promotes, and is that we don't take care of our our relatives. Once you reach a certain age, we expect them to be cut off on their own. Or you may have a woman that's like absolutely an orphan, doesn't have, any relatives, all the relatives are dead, or maybe disowned you, because our society, we got things that play against our relationship. I mean, against our family life, drugs, prison, all those things. What is it of a woman that has a father and he's in prison for the rest of his life? What is she gonna do? Usually you find sometime, not all the time, but they go into survival mode, right? So, but anyway, Islam promotes the idea that a woman should get married in order to be taken care of, But with all of these, Khadija Kardashians and wannabes and all that stuff like that, it doesn't allow a woman to be a woman no more. She has to like basically like utilize her body and her soul, sacrifice her soul in order to make the money. The money is the biggest god of today's time, right? During the time Prophet Saleh, he was eradicating Lot and Uzza and all those other guys. Right now, the biggest god, the big god that everybody worships is money. It even pulls in the Muslims, right? And then you have all the other little gods like Apple and Oculus and Tesla and Benz and all of those things, that command and demand, but nothing commands and demands like money. All right. Money will make you turn on your best friend. All right. Money will make a woman turn on her man and leave it with his enemy. So that's some of the things, the bad light that shined on it. But truth be told, if a woman knows, she sees a brother, she knows for certain that, her well being to be taken care of, there's nothing wrong with her, being presented, for marriage for that. Likewise, imams used to do that a lot. Especially early on when I became Muslim, there was a sister in the community and she was always needy, or always needed something or something like that. Sometimes the imam will recommend brothers to marry her. It wouldn't be like I seen a thing one time. It was a sister on Facebook. She was asking for, campaigning for Sadaqah, but she didn't like. It's not like she like hit you up every once in a while. She was like almost like every 2-3 days, right? And she had a little one, you know what I'm saying, as a result of her not being married. It was a newborn, and I guess she was like bouncing from place to place, staying in shelter, hotels, and everything, right? And so one brother asked her, said, "Well, sister, you ever thought about getting married?" And next thing you know, she was going off. Y'all brothers need to stop thinking about your desire. I'm not gonna marry no one, right? I'm not gonna marry no one just to be taken care of. But shorty, you got a brand new baby, like less than 2 months old. You see what I'm saying? So this the this is the thing. So it was like you gotta put your thing. You gotta put your life in an Islamic perspective, in an Islamic order. You will condemn marriage or marrying someone to take care of you, but you like sleep around, dance and get naked in OnlyFans and Facebook and Instagram reels and things of that nature, and then throw a tag for your alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, throw a tag for your Cash App, because that's very big now. And you even have a lot of the brothers that's unmarried, out here, sending in donations and Cash Apps, send me a naked inbox and so on and so forth. Some of them just skip marriage and just spend the money. But when it's time to get married, we always complain about how high the dowry is. But you spend all this countless money, and eventually that joint get exposed, especially Cash App and all that. You keep spending, $600 at a time. 601, you start getting taxed. So you gonna be in trouble. But people are doing these things and then complaining about something like a mahar. It's one thing you can't afford it, just say it, right? But then you get this whole condemnation thing. And then you have some people that's out, that's not in touch with modern times, and they talking about, men need to step up and pay these high dowries and things of this nature. And the reason why I'm saying out of touch with modern times and you're not being realistic, I don't think most men, I can't put a percentage to it. I probably should do the numbers one day, crunch the numbers and look it up, the statistics. But a lot of men aren't making over probably about $45,000 a year, right? And so then, and that's before taxes. We're not talking about after taxes, right? So these things are like realistically have to be taken into consideration, with this. And you shouldn't condemn the man who can't afford, beyond his means for a mahar. Let me put it like that. I'm not going to say an expensive, because, expensive is according to the lifestyle. You have to be able not to afford it in order to consider it something that's expensive, or it has to be like really high up there in the numbers. But there's some people that can actually afford it. So this actually plays a part. But that type of woman that's getting married to take care of herself, right? That doesn't make her one that's hustling, right? And then also with the same, when you try to desire and you desire that same lifestyle that the kuffar desires, when it breaks up, you create that type of lifestyle, it breaks up. The woman, she doesn't want to leave that lifestyle, because then she goes back to nothing. It's almost like a Cinderella story, right? You lost your shoe after midnight, and you're hoping that the prince was going to bring it back to you so you can get rich again, right? And so usually after that first big investment in marriage, if you don't have any type of Islamic foundation, the rest of your marriages you're going to have trouble. Meaning, if you didn't marry, with the Islamic philosophy and practice behind you, when you get out of that marriage, when that marriage, dissolves, if it ever dissolves, may Allah Ta'ala protect us from having, marriages that end in bad situation. But that thing that caused that marriage to dissolve, right? That person sometimes, and especially if they're not a person of taqwa or anything of that nature, they're so stuck in that first marriage that hurt them, they never recover. The rest of their relationships is trash. You're sitting there, you're on standby, you're waiting for the first sign of trouble. And this affects both men and women. This is why a lot of people can't get married. Matter of fact, a lot of our stagnation in relationships and families, that's an old head problem. That's old folks people. That's old folks problems. Been married, look, man, I took care of these sisters, and this, that, and the third, and they still left me. I remember I used to work with an old head. He had got divorced, and he was like, he was just sitting there talking to me one day. He was like, yo, you married? I was like, yeah. He said, man, it's a shame. He was like, man, don't get married. And I said, well, why not? And then he started telling me his story. At that point, it was like really wasn't even no point in me even trying to put up a rebuttal to combat what he was saying, because he was so hurt, in his feelings, and this is what you're seeing, you know what I mean? And we're so starstruck. We have to stop looking at those low-level celebrities, meaning those kuffar, and start really looking at our own heroes in our Islamic lifestyle and legacy. Because we look up to them and we're like, oh my God, they got divorced. Why? But they're nobody. They probably don't even make a stinger. You know, you focusing on these individuals. You know, they don't have anything on the Islamic. And then you look at your peers, the people your peers, and most of us already have, especially if you come from the inner city, you already got a negative opinion of your brother and sister anyway. You know, some people will feel like, we're not qualified to talk about because we don't have the best, the best wives or best marriages and things of that nature. And that's the thing that's unfair, unfair to people, because everybody is a trial by error. If you know that there's certain Sahabas that made certain mistakes, during and even after the life of the Prophet, what are you going to say? I wouldn't take a fiqh ruling from him either, right? So these things, we start putting up unrealistic conditions, on why we're rejecting you, which is a lack of accountability. Versus the younger crowd, they're more of a free, more of a free spirit, because they engage and engulf in that, fornication and adultery fashion, and a lot of their hustling takes place without them being married. It's once you get married, for some people that hustle start kicking it. Stop watching the Housewives of Atlanta and other foolishness and tune into the Soullutionz podcast. I mean, but you have to really look at it from a realistic and have a realistic approach. you know. But we didn't even touch on getting into children yet, which we're going to lead up into that, right? But just the baseline getting married. Think about it. What was the girl that It was a girl that was poking holes in condoms and stuff like that, and sleeping with basketball players, hoping that she can get a child. Because today, especially in our younger crew, right? Old folks ain't exempt from this. What it is that you just got old and you done passed that. Some of y'all ain't having kids no more, right? Some of y'all already did what already engaged in what I'm about to talk about, right? You have, when you look at like a lot of these tabloid type of situations with the media and stuff like that. Yeah, women trying to poke holes in condoms and things like that to get pregnant, so they'll be locked in. You have men that's trying to impregnate the woman to try to keep her. And then even on a lower level, usually the person who has a child with the woman first, he's usually the husband for life without a ring. The child is the husband, right? So these this is what's being, this is the stuff that's being
Brittany Renner.
Yeah.
Brittany Renner. Someone had referenced Brittany Renner. She been a topic on YouTube in Red Pill Manosphere community. For the past week, right? And
yeah,
she kind of like dropped the ball. PJ Washington, he got a contract for $50 million. But she called off the
Oh, you talking
engagement.
about the boy from the
ring.
Miami Dolphins?
Yeah, kept the ring. You know what I'm saying? She kept the ring, but she got a baby. You follow me? She got a shorty bound.
Right.
She had a whole meltdown on the podcast where she had threw some water on Charles White and the host, and she had gave Charles White a lap dance.
Yeah, see that kind of stuff. And what's crazy is a lot of people watch those things and love to fall in love with those type of things because they feel like that's obtainable, right? But when you start talking about things of like accomplishing good character and things like that, ain't nobody got time for that, right? They'll do ratchet stuff because they feel that that's obtainable. That's within their skill set. You're extremely impoverished person if your body's the only thing you got to offer. You're an extremely poor person if your money is the only thing you got to offer. You know what I mean? That's true poverty in and of itself. But these things are actually playing a part, in it. So that the baby father syndrome, he's the husband for life, right? No matter, even if she married, no matter how many times she married, that first baby father is the true husband, right? Unless she doesn't know him. Unless she doesn't know who her baby father is. But then even that becomes a bit of, it breeds a lot of animosity as well, and it contributes, with that problem. And you know what? I'm gonna what you call it. When we finish this, right? We're gonna talk. We're gonna touch a little bit on blended families because Muhammad mentioned it. He mentioned a statement saying, "We're not stepfathers, we fathers." So we're gonna get to that in a few. We're gonna get to that in a few. You ready for that, Muhammad?
Hey, we can get to it. You know what I mean?
Nah.
Get to it.
So what I want to do is transition over in talking about how the child is the hustle, right? Because there's a what's the word I want to use? An axiom, an unwritten rule that we condemn as men and men in society condemn because child support things used like that can be unjust. Some people end up making a lifestyle off of child support. Now, of course, there's some men that can't afford it. Most men are unemployed, and they're court order mandated to pay a minimum like $50 a month. Some women are receiving, public assistance, and whatever money that the court appoints for that man to pay, that money go back to the system, right? Then you got those who are, have a nice amount of wealth. You might have two children with a woman, and you make it about $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and what is it, 33%? So out of $4,000 a month, you're probably paying her about like $1,400, And so then what happens is if that's a step up from her if she lives a frugal lifestyle and a welfare type of lifestyle, because the amount of money that you receive from public assistance is next to nothing. You can't nobody survive off of that stuff. The only thing that's the difference between America's poverty and places like Ethiopia or something like that. Ethiopia's poverty is more, it's like in your face. America's poverty is in your face, but most people don't think they that poor. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
We
I've
don't think
seen
we that poor.
I've seen both in Ethiopia and here. So
And so here, when you ain't got your thing together, if you're poor, you get, if you're poor here, nobody really empathizes with you. They blame you for being poor. They blame you for being poor.
What I analyze in regards to like true poverty here in America and Ethiopia is that in Ethiopia that's real poverty. In America, so we have poverty here, but we're in a position to where we can change that, right? To the point to where in Ethiopia, in order for them to change that, they would have to buckle down real hard, or they would have to do a whole lot of illegal stuff to be able to get ahead. I
Well, that's
remember
what we
one.
do here.
I'm talking about, but it'd be clear, more open than sinister like we do here. We do it here, but you know what I'm saying. We don't put it directly out in the open in your face.
The reason why I'm not totally like on board with that. The reason I'm gonna say is the reason why there's two types of poor. You got that person that's going from mill to mill and they justify why they rob and steal. And then you got the other poor person that just basically make a life underneath the bridge. You know what I mean? They literally both of them are in real bad shape. You get one a job, you give them both a job, you see their lifestyle change, right? Something where they can actually take care of themselves. But the thing is that it's a catch-22. Most people that they're below the poverty line, most of them work in retail. They're below the poverty line. They work in retail. They got a job at some high end or maybe some mid-level or low budget, store, whether fast food, whether retail, whatever the case is. They're at that line and they still qualify to be, make what they consider the poverty line, the poverty guidelines. You know what I'm saying? And people are doing that. If you rent sky high, it's still minimum wage, still $7.25. All right. So, all these things play a part. Now, back to child support, because that's how we got on this topic. You have men that's in prison, they got children. You know, the woman takes them to court for child support. You still getting back order. What do they call it? The back order of child support. I forgot the proper name for it. Arrears. You're in the arrears.
Back child support.
Yeah, you're in the arrears. And so here it is. You get out of jail. Your situation ain't no different than the guy that's standing on the highway begging. You know what I mean? It's like set up for failure. It's set up. It's set up for poverty. And this is why even the poor need Islam. Because once you recognize that it's Allah Ta'ala in control of things, your approach should be much different, and then you'll become rich by finding yourself being content with the decree of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. It doesn't mean that you stop seeking, but you become content, while you're seeking what Allah Ta'ala, seeking the provisions of Allah. And then you have to look at it. You start a checklist with your poverty, right? Like, alhamdulillah, I got a bill for the day. Alhamdulillah, I got a roof over my head. Alhamdulillah, I got clothes on my back. We'll get up the next day and see what it's like. Because the first time I ever heard of this analogy was when I read a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he talked about the son of Adam, about how each day you have tawakkul, you have to have reliance on Allah, the same way that every morning the bird gets up with an empty stomach and fries a worm, for that day. And this was something that it was like heavy to me. It weighed in on me because, you don't think about that. That's not something you think about, but you do get your sustenance like that. Sometimes it may not be what you want. It may not be the burger that you want burgers and steaks and all of these things. Sometimes you just got to eat what's right in front of you, what you can afford, right? Now back to child support. So you got out of jail, boom. Now you got arrears, restitution, and all of this. You might have been trying to change your life around. This is where the real test comes in at, right? But one thing that ain't gonna go away is that system where that individual is locked in to pay that child support, right? So that can become a hustle. You do have women that sleep with men that have a bright future, and they sleep with them, get pregnant by it, right? You even have men and women who fake pregnancy. There's in the Quran. I meant to look up the exact surah and the exact ayah, but when women gave bay'ah in the past, Allah Ta'ala mentioned this about women, examine them, and part of their bay'ah is they're not gonna blame a man for a child that doesn't belong to him. Because you imagine, this used to be something that was commonly practiced amongst prostitutes. She get pregnant, she ain't no good no more. She can't work the block like she used to. So now she got to blame it on the last John that she was with. You know what I'm saying? Or the one who has more of the brighter future, or the brighter situation, for them. So in this case, yes, children become a hustle in that case, right? And then like I said, some men, when they have a child with a woman, they felt like they locked her in now, And if you're already obsessed with the individual and you have that child, the only thing that separates you from that woman and that child usually be murder. All right. Like the situation here in Philly a couple years ago where the woman became Muslim. I don't think the man was Muslim. And she was seeking to get married. I think, no, she didn't get married, or she was about to get married or something like that. And I don't know if you remember this, Mom. He kidnapped the little boy and blew the woman's brains out. You know what I'm saying? He ended up turning himself in and giving the baby to his grandmother.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, there's a lot of situations like that, and that's happening all across the country, not just Philly. But I'm just saying, I just mentioned that just so that which we can segue over into blended families after this. But you want to add to it? Go ahead, because this was actually your topic that you picked.
Well, add to, you want me to go ahead and start with the blend? With the blended
it's up to you if you got anything you want to add to to the thing about the child hustle, because that is a hustle. Or one more thing, one of the things that I think is absolutely unjust that they practice in today's society, some would agree with it, right? Which is the system charging the man who was and I'll say partaking in that family, right? I mean, he was dealing with the woman, and he may have one or no children with the woman, But because he was there with her, they charge him child support too now. That's unjust. Because what happens is
you're talking about in some states to where if a man hasn't been in the child's life and that's not his child, and in any way he presented himself as a father figure to that child, and they divorced, then they could order him to pay child support. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. They order him to pay, and the children aren't his. Hold on, before we
in a particular case like that can only take place if the actual biological father of the child is not paying child support or is not being sanctioned to pay child support.
But where's the justice at in it? That's what I'm saying. If you married to a sister that got children with somebody else, they start garnishing your wages when that relationship is over. You see what I'm saying?
That's unjust.
That's unjust. You know what that does? That puts a stain on the relationship. Think about it. Most people start scheming. Matter of fact, if you look, this is a big contributing factor on why we don't have traditional marriages no more. If you got a man that already has a house, right? And rightfully so, he gets married to a sister. He said, yo, I want you to move in my house. But she has her own house. She has housing and things like this. Now, she's expecting to pay all her bills there and him still pay for where he's at too, because both of them are like, I ain't giving up my house. You see what I'm saying? So, the more we complain about issues, our lifestyles are creating newer ones, right? Which we about to blend right over into the segue. We're going to segue right over into blended families. The situation with blended families, stuff like this that we're talking about, you start doing stuff like I ain't putting my name on nothing. I ain't going to get a letter sent to the house. You start doing all kinds of stuff like this now. You see what I'm saying? You start doing all kinds of stuff like this because why? Because it's like, yo, I'm not going to pay. I don't want to take care of a child that ain't mine. And the man who actually fathered these children is just running around free while you're trying to eat up my wages. You see what I'm saying? So all this stuff is all based on capitalistic society. So once you enter into that system, it opens up a whole whirlpool, of problems as well. Did you want to see some comments first before we go into the?
Yeah, I want to see some comments first. I seen one comment where I don't know who this is. I remember years back when a brother made a post about the concept of American child support system being a cash cow system,
right?
And how for some as Muslims, women may be receiving more than what's Islamically appropriate, and she has to answer for that. Some are trying to turn a whole lifestyle out of it. She may even get remarried, and her and the new husband may be trying to live off of what she receives for her child on their own personal expenses. Shaking my head.
Yo, I've seen that. I had a friend that was like that. It was a sister. Me and him was working out. He had married a sister, her ex-husband. He used to be a dentist, and he had owed us some back money, like some racks, at least about 15 or something like that. And it just like messed my whole work up out. I think I went home after that. He was like, he was just talking to me, but it's just like, you know how I get, mom. So he's like, yeah, man, our ex-husband paid it, paid his child support, man, because he's supposed to give me, like $5,000 go get a car. I was done for the night as I'm going home. Like, my facial expression would have been a coolie coolie has stuff like that. He called us a lot of out of here. You know what I mean? And that's because that's how I just felt that day. Like, dang, man, this ain't even right. You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, you got them in the system, and now some Muslims prefer the system over Islam. But go to the next comment. I go to the comment before that. Right, this is actually the reason why I said we need to segue over into blended discussion on blended families. So it says, "Mashallah, tabarakallah." We definitely need more topics on blended family as it relates to step parents and step children as well. And I've heard many instances where brothers were called lame or weak by women who claim that the brother needed to step up his game in relations to bonding. Hold on a second. Relates to bonding
Bonding with the
with the
stepchild.
stepchild. For instance, the brother married a woman who her biological children and their father's relationship is estranged, or perhaps the mother may have used parental alienation. Now, one last thing, and then I guess I'll let you go ahead and address that comment. Here's one right here. This comment is, or brother name is on the birth certificate, even though that's not his child, but he changed with now he's charged with child support. Either way, it's unjust, and that's adding back to the comment that we were mentioning about child support.
All right, so I'm gonna touch on the very first one that CD Nasir had posted. As it relates to blended families. Technically, a blended family is the Brady Bunch. Really, I mean, man had 3 sons, woman had 3 daughters, and they came together as a family. And the way that the perspective was in that situation was that he was the father of all 6, she was the mother of all 6. In our particular case, when we marry a sister, a lot of times when we marry sisters, we're what you want to say, we marry sisters that have children that may be from marriage and have children that may be out of wedlock. Um, the relationship with the children's father who's out of wedlock may be estranged. They may have some real legitimate beef with each other to where they're feuding from time to time. Now, by you being the covering, you know what I'm saying, her husband, it's in some cases kind of like diffuses a little bit, and in some cases it don't. You know what I'm saying? The main thing that you're in a position for is to actually show the children what it looks like. You mean to have a male counterpart or a figurative person to give you a display or example of a father figure, right? Even though at the time you may not have any children by by their mother. You know what I'm saying? They understand they come to understand that you're gonna be there for that time. Or you're gonna be there for a short period of time. A lot of times they don't allow themselves to bond with you. And a lot of times you don't allow yourself to bond with them. However, you mean Allah Ta'ala decrees whatever may take place. Allah Ta'ala may also manifest that you're gonna establish a bond with them. And what that does, that kind of like put a strain on a relationship if everything goes sour. Now, in the case to where, in the case to where, this individual get caught up in the child support. I was going to say child support scam, but in the child support system. You know what I'm saying? If you could call it a scam as it relates to the injustice of it. You know what I'm saying? But if you know, so if you get into the situation to where you caught up in that, a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, if you already on child support from previous children, whoever files child support after the first one is not going to receive the same amount or more money than the initial person who already has child support, depending on the state where you're at. All right, depending on the state where you at. If you it's some states, like I mentioned earlier, that you may not be the biological father at all, and the biological father may not
Should we live in one, Pennsylvania?
may be paying child support, but you're a father figure to the child. And if it's proven that you display any type of station of being a father figure to that child, then they can seek child support from you as well. Now in Pennsylvania, how the common law is that if you marry a woman and you marry her in the common law, whatever y'all accumulated together, right, it becomes yours. Like, for example, you marry a sister and you marry in a Commonwealth, and she was pregnant, but then you marry in a Commonwealth, and then she has the baby. According to the Commonwealth, that's your child. So if you was to divorce, you know what I mean, you'll be paying child support for that child, despite if the child's biological father is known or in the picture or anything whatsoever, because according to the law, that's your child. Now, if in regards to like signing a birth certificate, I would advise no one to sign a birth certificate of a child who's not his. And this and I think I forgot what stated is they're acquiring every child to be tested, paternity tested at birth. After they're born, then they get a paternity test for the suspected father. What that does, that eliminates parental fraud, right? To where a man is paying child support for a child that's not his, right? The other thing too is that there are cases to where a man paying taking care of a child for 15, 18 years, and then after 18 years find out that the child not his. You know what I'm saying? The child only knows one father, and that's him. So you know what I'm saying. What happens is that man is that man has rancor in his heart in regards to that situation. You know what I mean? And you know what I'm saying. He kind of like drifts away from the relationship on the child. You said Tennessee or Louisiana, but every state most likely may follow suit. Allah knows best. Most state may actually follow suit. However, this is what we're dealing with now in Islam. You know what I'm saying. Normally, I don't know about anybody else, but I've always been a stepfather, except for my first marriage. I wasn't no stepfather. That was my child. I mean, you know what I'm saying. That was from the marriage. You know what I'm saying. But everyone after that, except for a couple, I was always a stepfather. You know what I'm saying? And my oldest son's mother, I wasn't a stepfather because he came from our union. You know what I'm saying? So I've had different experiences on not being told you're not my father, you're not my real dad, and or being told I don't have to listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Different stuff. You follow what I'm saying? But most of them cases, I was never put in the position to where I'm being held responsible for the care. It's just that I was in a position to where I'm not gonna care for mine from the marriage and don't care for everybody else. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna be a father to mine and not be a father to everybody else, regardless if their father's in the picture or not. You know what I mean? That's why I said earlier.
You remember when kids used to ask, "Are you my dad?" Now they tell you ain't my dad.
Yeah, yeah,
Times change.
yeah. Times has changed a lot. You know what I'm saying? Times
And
have
the
changed a lot.
focus is in the wrong place. If we still believe that in 2023 we can still conduct households without having two parents together, we bugging out. The whole concept of co-parenting, I pick them up this day, you pick them up that way. That stuff is all fine and dandy, but there's still a rift there. Sometimes it's mix and match. That same level of Islamic lifestyle, and I'm talking about what we see on a day-to-day basis. It don't exist. It don't exist in, excuse me, it don't exist in reality for us. You know what I'm saying? The father may be ratchet and the mother may be righteous, right? So you have this now. Your kids is getting taken to church, you know, and in the masjid when they come with you, their Islam suffers. All that giving them money for school and all that stuff is beautiful. Hooray, clap your hands. But when it comes to Islam, it seems like none of the parents are no longer concerned about that no more. Right? And you can't do nothing. There's nothing you could do if a parent leaves Islam, or so on and so forth. But this is really what's being sacrificed. Most, and most children you have like that, if that mother is struggling with that child, and she can't find, a man that wants to help her with her children, and which you have this problem now with a lot of women, that child suffers Islamically. That child suffers. That child never barely go to the masjid. The child barely knows anything about Islam, and anything that they learn it off of YouTube, right? They suffer. The man who has the children, he could provide a structure, but he can't provide that nurturing that the mother has. He doesn't give that same, not in that same capacity. Your children be hard as bricks. You know what I mean? They lifestyle will be hard. Why? Because they grow up, they grow up with their father, man. Everything gonna be drilled in them about being a provider and things of that nature, but it doesn't have that nurturing side. You understand what I'm saying? So, co-parenting, when you're talking about just like money and putting them in the programs to pay for, and yeah, he's a good father. He paid for us to go to the beach this year, or et cetera, et cetera. But their Islam be hurting. They be hurting. Yeah. They're looking for it. Or what happens when that child, especially that male children always turn away from the mother once they hit a certain point. And what if you get that child in his character, he turned away, and she's out here running behind him, trying to chase him and things of that nature. And next thing you know, he's off missing out in the streets, right? And then she's putting out, all these, if you see my child, bring him here. And every time you bring that child home, daughter as well, they go running away again. So, our thing is, it's better. Things are better when you work together. And I believe this is the wisdom in Islam with widows, people that's divorced consider a widow in Islam. Divorcee women that's been, divorced, the mother may keep them, or you send them with the father, and the father's the father, he may, and this is how important that nurturing side is that I mentioned. That father the children may be with the mother while the father is out working, and he takes care of the Islamic education and things from that nature, and the mother, enforces that, in them. But the thing is that the man somewhere down the line is always going to have a wife or have a woman in the background helping. What you have now in today's blended societies is you ain't my daddy. It went from are you my dad, right? To, I ain't got nothing to do with the children of the bed. That ain't my kid. To, I don't need no father. To, basically like, don't you bring your kids in here. I ain't responsible for your kids either. So now you have a big Mexican standoff in the black community. And the only thing that's happening is if you have a male child and that male child kills or gets killed, that's two people taken away from one. You know what I mean? So therefore, it's a genocide. And we don't even realize how much we're contributing in this genocide. We need all parents on deck. So, and for real, we ain't got time to talk about who we should have married, who we could have, and why this messed up. That we accept with our reality. Our reality is this is what it is. Some of us made mistakes when marrying the wrong person, or impregnating, even getting impregnated the wrong person, right? Not contending with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some people, you could look at them like, man, I knew you was gonna give me hell from the time I married you, right? To now, it's like it is what it is. But now we need to bring people together and keep them together. But as long as we keep breaking up as a community, we're gonna keep breaking up as a family. Think about it. Even before Islam, correct me if I'm wrong. For people who used to go to church, paid attention to church, or had family in the church, didn't the congregation start breaking away from the church first? And once the people broke away from the congregation in church, then they started breaking away from each other. And then fornication became more popular than actual getting married, right? What are we doing now? You're breaking away from the Jamaat, and the more you break away from the Jamaat, the more the families break up, right? The more the families break up, there's nobody to mediate to what's going on, and this is why you have people doing emotional killings. They're killing each other's spouses. My baby mom killing baby mom. His baby mom shot him, and you're having this, and it's just nonstop. It's nonstop. So but. Back to blended families. That's the horror of blended family. The benefit of blended families is, a blended family was in Islam too? The orphan. An orphan child. You make sure that child is taken care of. Make sure he has his money, right? Or her money. If it's a girl, right? the person who's the guardian either marry her off, right, or they can marry them themselves. Because people used to take from the orphan.
Mm-hmm.
Islam put a stop to that. People used to take from the orphan, and if you ever understand the ayat of dealing with polygyny, it's really not about giving permissibility of marrying four or anything of that nature, or restricting, to four. Yeah, it got restricted. People got restricted to having only four wives. But to read the whole ayat was about orphans being taken care of and being just, right? And if you're too weak to take care of the needs of the orphans, if you weren't going to marry that orphan that you was taking care of, then you need to marry a free woman, and that will be more just for you. It's not about the amount of wives. It's about the justice. You see what I'm saying? So this is what's happening. I put up a couple comments. Somebody said this is destruction to our community. Absolutely. Remember, it was drugs some years ago. You go back, it was drugs. It's drugs now. It's drugs, money, murder. You know what I'm saying? It's really bad now. We used to literally have a village to help with our children. To now we barely have any parents. But think about it. Parents, I was under that tutelage. I'll be outside getting in trouble throwing rocks. My neighbors scold me, and my mother was coming to my aid. Leave that boy alone. You know what I'm saying? So this is what we did. And think about it. You do it to the school teachers now. Yo, I promise you, if I was a school teacher, y'all kids wouldn't be learning nothing from me. You coming in yelling at me about why he failing. Them kids won't learn. I'll probably quit. I'm like, man, this ain't even worth it. I ain't got time for this. I would quit. Because why? Because now teachers are dealing with that stuff. And what about these kids that's in junior high and all that stuff like that? Getting beat on. Teachers getting beat on over a cell phone. Right? These things are happening now. This is extremely common in today's time. So it went from don't tell my child what to do, don't raise your voice at my child, etc., etc. Now to nobody want. People will see a train about to hit your kid and won't say nothing. Right? And then on top of that, and then we want to cry about because of our lack of competitiveness in education. So we're upset when they start making remote learning, people learning online. So instead of us learning to adapt, we learn how to adapt to socialize. We learn how to work Facebook or Twitter/X or Instagram, but we won't learn how to work a educational program and cry about our children not having the ability to be in classrooms or learning online. They ain't getting it. Because why? To learn online, you have to be somewhat autodidactic. You have to have the ability to learn on your own to a certain level, which is good to some degree, right? A child, now, this is the thing with education. As a student of Islam, a student of knowledge, the teacher is only going to teach you the same thing over and over. Your discovery or research is where you get your bases, your foundations covered, but your individual research, and you're doing a comparativeness, not so that you can change things, but so you get a better understanding, and it helps you understand other people and other positions that other people take. That research is where you get the label of being a person of basir, tabasir or tadabbir, a person of reflection, and so on and so forth. We just want somebody just to tell us what to do so we can regurgitate it. Most people that got skill training, they're not that good at their skill. They're not that good in that skill. They just got the papers and stuff like that as a formality. So how are we going to look at education now? We have to ask ourselves that. How do we look at education? How are we going to educate our children? Then on top of that, right? Like for instance, you might have a child in a blended family, right? And I know because I've done this, and honestly, go back to think about the khutbah I gave yesterday, Muhammad. I was talking about myself in the past. Because I'll shut down. I won't care. I'm like, oh, you don't want to practice deen? All right, fine. You know what I mean? But reality is this. I'll be the same way. Like, yo, you got children. I'm trying to teach your children the same way I'm trying to teach mine. And you want them to go eat McDonald's and go to, all that other stuff. I'll be like, man, I ain't got time for it. You go ahead and do whatever you want to do with your kids. You already start ruining the blended family right there. You already start destroying it right there from the rip. If you're gonna have that type of family, you gotta have that head of household. Everybody's got to be on that same wave, right? Sometimes you got men that's like that. They don't want they because they're trying to uphold. Because sometimes we care more so about uh upholding the tradition that Hattie made. You know, my mom Hattie done laid down for us, and it might be wicked, right? Like who still gives children, you know, alcohol as a method of cold a cold medicine? Who gives children liquor to put them to sleep? Right? That's a cultural practice. Can you practice that in Islam? Absolutely not. But we'll hold on to that. You know, we'll hold on to that stuff. Hey, Sully, glad you cared to join us tonight, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. What's going on?
Hey, now hold on. I got a couple comments I want to put up there.
Sorry, body man. You know, I had other prior engagements at the masjid.
We need to pack up our Jamaat and move to our own land and live accordingly. That should always be the end game as far as dunya wise in Western lands. Because it's just like when you get your own place, you know that transition. Think back to when you were a young buck and you were able to move out of your family house and you were able to establish yourself as an adult.
Don't.
You know how rejuvenating and refreshing that will be, and it put into the family, you know, when you didn't have and now you have, you know, that'd be so refreshing. So think of it as a Muslim. Imagine the himma of the Muslims that are able to do it. And I can't lie, there are some brothers that are actually doing it. There's some brothers that's doing it. You know, not many people is gonna, you know, latch on to that. But then also too, you have to take in consideration, you know, when you do something like that, you got to think of your whole economic strategy, how you're gonna, you know, maintain that stuff and stuff like that. That's a future program. I'm glad you mentioned that. I can't see who the Facebook user is. All right, the next one. Ya Allah, we seek protection from all evil, harm, jealousy, envy, clandestine and overt. May we remain in the hadra, Ameen, and have afiyah and ma'rifah by the blessings of the Master of existence, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
It sound like CD Nasir.
Ameen.
Nasir.
Mr. Petty Jaws. About time you get here. That's the name, Mr. Petty Jaws. We need
Mr. Petty
guys. And he said there are actual towns that could be purchased and used for that purpose. Now,
I think what's that? That I think it was a Jamaat in Virginia, a big community out in Virginia where they bought a lot of land at before.
There's some that's still around. There's some that's still around.
You got in Gary, Indiana, where you can buy whole blocks for like $5,000 a block. You just got to build on it. You know what I'm saying? You got to build on the biggest thing, like for a move like that. You got to build economics on the joint. You know what I'm saying? Because Gary, Indiana is one of them cities that is not a whole lot of people. Most of the people who live in Gary, Indiana, they don't work in Gary, Indiana. They work outside of Gary. You follow what I'm saying? So if you have like business and economy to bring they build in that, then that'll bring more jobs there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so that's, and then I remember the old heads in Chicago, they was talking about Detroit. Detroit got some of them same type of plots or spots, you know what I'm saying, where you can buy land and stuff in the city. I mean, you just have to build on it. They was talking about they was trying to call that the new Mecca. Like we can make that could be Medina. You know what I mean? You know, so in regards to these towns, then you also have spots. You mean spots in different states where you can purchase land. like West Virginia, like Western PA, you know what I'm saying, different Northern PA. You can buy land, you know what I mean?
But you just want the only thing about buying land, you just gotta be strategic. Because you gotta create a market for yourself. You don't want to be hurting in the inner city and then go out, and start building in rural
I was
America.
I was about to say the same thing. Like, us as black, we can't even own me and you was talking about that, email Khalil, that we can't even create nothing in our own cities. We
Yeah.
don't even have like a black Islamic, street. Like, if you think about it,
Black Islamic street. We only barely even have any black Islamic stores. As many black people in Philly, ain't that many black Islamic stores.
right? And and I broke that, I said that to you too. Like, if we think about 52nd Street, we'll walk right past a halal store instead of putting the money in our own hands, the Muslim hands, and go eat a Big Mac from McDonald's.
Because we don't have that high him and that high esteem. Think about it. There were people I mentioned. I think we talked about this before. There used to be a store in Philly called the Garden of Bilal, and for it to be ran by Black American Muslims, it was pretty upscale in its own way. You know what I'm saying? Despite how you feel about music, jazz concerts, and stuff like that, it used to have some. It was like a nice thing. It was it was something you could take your family to. You know what I mean? On Friday and so on and so forth. Which this is a good point right here. This is something that we need to look into, is farming. Now, when you travel south, the one thing that's good about traveling south, and you run into the right people, you'll run into some of those people that are into agriculture and those things. I think we still even on a basic level, and we need to make those agriculture areas in the city, even if it's small gardening, right? We need to get a chicken coop. Remember, there's Puerto Ricans that there's always chickens, so we
need to learn. We need to learn agriculture, firearm handlement, how to handle a firearm correctly, so we can police our own neighborhood.
What you saying? We can't keep turning to the side like this, and turning our head, or shooting like we throwing.
Yeah, we need to learn that. So we could police our own neighborhoods. There's a lot of stuff we need to really get up on. But first, we got to start with ourselves, and we got to stop eating this hit in the head food.
Well, once
look, see, I got you. I thought I was gonna say that word.
But that's a good point, and I think, and I know this is my intention. I'm pretty sure it's y'all attention as well. People close to us and people from far, they criticize us for some of the topics that we be having with pertaining to marriage. I know a lot of people probably thought we was gonna get ratchet on this joint, but it ain't even get ratchet. It's really like a real mature adult conversation going on. But however, these topics are geared to help us, right? These topics are geared to help us. And this is why it's important for our audience that you're listening, that you like it, love it, share it to other people, create discussions, make your own spinoff on the discussion. You know what I'm saying? Each one build one. We got to be poor righteous teachers, but when we think we got it all going on, then the buck stops with us and we only care about ourselves. That was the whole point of my khutbah yesterday. Right? Save yourself. It's easy to save ourselves because you just be like, yo, I ain't doing that. But when you got to pull other people, that's when we don't want no smoke. Oh, I'm too stressed out. Oh, I'm too this. I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for this. If Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, he was around, you know what I'm saying, for, what was it, 900, almost 1,000 years? After like about 5 minutes, 2 years, 1 year, we throw in the towel.
He gave dawah for 900 years.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm absolutely hand-to-hand combat. That's another thing that died out. When I was telling our martial arts training, a weapon is an extension of your hand. But now, in most people's mind, a weapon has inculcated them and made them a part of a supernatural being, where fire comes out the other end of their hand. But other people who know what, the purpose of a weapon, it's an extension of your hand. That's all. But anyway,
Man, you can't learn nothing when these parents got these little young boys soft as heck. They get smacked and be on World Star, be on the ground shaking from a jab.
but they sit around all day, all night playing GTA, and then you wonder why murder is the first thing that they think.
Exactly. They can't. But that's a bigger story. You know what I mean? That we raising some soft behind kids. That some of y'all little boys out here softer than cotton. That's a whole nother story we need to talk about. That we ain't raising men no more. We raising those sassy little young boys that's out here killing each other over emotions.
You know what I would love to see single parents, whether male or female, join that panel and discuss it and compare how they raise their children. A person with insight can get a lot out of that. Bring single parents on that panel, both male and female, and let them talk about their parenting strategies. I promise you'll learn a lot from it.
Man, I know parents still washing their 19-year-old son's drawers and t-shirts and everything else.
Yeah, well.
You know what I mean? So, that's a whole nother thing. But again, we are what we put in, right? I'm going to constantly speak about that now too, because it starts with us. Why do you think a lot of stuff is problematic in our neighborhoods now? Right? Because we're not consuming what is halal, what is good for us. We're not consuming that. It starts with consuming what is good. You put in good, you get out, you dish out good. We're putting in all this filth, let alone us Muslims, we still indulge in alcohol, marijuana, all these other things, right? We got to start with us first, as Imam Khalil said. Protect yourself. We got to start with ourselves. What are we doing wrong? One, we're consuming everything that is haram to us, from the food we digest to the drugs we inhale in our lungs and to the liquor we put in our bellies. We consume everything.
That's going to require accountability, though, Sheikh.
Right. Like I said, it starts with us.
No, I haven't got a chance to look into that book. I've been wanting to. I got to make sure I get it, inshallah. This book here that he's talking about, a fatwa. I got a bucket list. Now,
right? We gotta start there first, and then we can progress. Right? Then we can progress. Why do you think what it says? A bad apple don't fall that far from the tree.
Fall far from the tree now.
It starts with us. We consuming bad. We doing this, as I said before. Like I seen where brothers got kufis on, the thobe on, the wife got the niqab on, and everything else, and your daughter got hair weave down to the middle of her back. She looking like sexy red. We weave all crazy, and she's not even mukallaf yet, and you letting them make any of these decisions and say, well, I want to be lenient on them. No, you're creating them to do sin. Right? Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah ta'ala, he spoke about it with knowledge, though. He said, if you teach a person that, and that they're going to use their knowledge for corruption, you aided them in a sin. Is as if you sold a sword to a highway robber. And this is what we do when we're aiding our children in these bad little sins that they do. Right? You Muslim, you all, your son a rapper, he making drill rap, you all at his concert with your ninja outfit on and your kufi on, talking about, look at him, look at my son. Come on, brother. Put your anti-lock brakes on, man. So it start with us first. We got to start changing. Then we can start doing all these other things. We can't talk about Jamaat yet because we don't even know how to obey the basic principles of the land. Right? So we got to start with us first, our families, and then start creating extended families. And once we do that, we should be good, inshallah ta'ala. But now we got to start worrying about us. Start eating halal. Start with consuming halal. Start consuming halal first, and then see how better you will feel. What, Imam Khalil, what is that when you eat this hit in the head food where if the animal's scared? What is it? What is that stuff that it produces? That
Uh,
the animal produces?
I can't remember the term for it right now, but the it's like it produces a toxin that releases in the messes over with the flesh. That I was gonna say the N word. It messes over with the flesh, and it spoils it. That's where a lot of that mad cow's disease and all that stuff was coming from.
Right, and this is what we're consuming on a daily basis. If you Google, we Google everything else. Come on, geniuses, let's Google this. Google how they slaughter animals in America, and then read Surah to Maida and tell me if that food is halal to us.
They got the chickens used to wring their neck. I mean, my grandmother used to talk about that. She used to catch the chicken. My mom had me cracking up one day, told me about my grandmother, how they'll be driving, right? My folks country, so they was driving, and my grandmother ran down a possum. You see possum, ran that joker down to catch him, take him home and cook him up. But she used to always talk about how they used to wring chickens' necks and break their neck and all that. And with regards to cows, they hit them in the head. They actually hit them in the head with an electric hammer.
Right.
Chickens, they got this thing where it just breaks their neck. They put them on like this little machine, like a conveyor almost, and bring it around. Just keep breaking their neck. So yeah, no, that it does. It affects you. It affects you. It affects your intake. So a lot of people getting sick now. So what we need to do is just kind of like begin to, build up our online presence, and to push, And I got a couple books that I'm I got to finish writing. I got a couple of them. One is the Medina family. It's coming soon. I've been working on it for a little minute. My wife always be like, "When you putting that book out? When you putting it out?" Because she get first dibs on it because she be helping me with the editing and stuff. So she first dibs on when you putting this thing out. When you gonna put this thing out? Put it out. But we, in order to promote solid Jamaats, we gotta have solid families. And so I've been giving a lot of focus on, translating some things connected to the sciences, of Islam. But I'm going to get into a lot of stuff that, with regards to family, and that's geared towards our cultural upbringing of our families. Somebody said they shoot the cow. They shoot the cow with an actual bolt in the head. Yeah. Now, and I don't blame vegans when they see that kind of stuff. Like, I ain't eat no more flesh. I can see them saying that. You know what I'm saying? But however, the Prophet said something that wasn't his way. He was, he didn't eat, he didn't eat a lot of flesh, throughout, in the months, 2 months time, maybe 2-3 times, maybe. So that goes to show you that we should have a lesser consumption. And it's funny because now they just passed some kind of law to make human chicken. Am I saying that right? I was like cloning, basically. When I was growing up, it was called cloning. So now they're able to, the government like signed off on that. Like tilapia, tilapia is in what? My battery's running low. I don't know how. So hold on. Yeah. Anyway, the tilapia is like a man-made fish. They put it together themselves. So they're moving more and more towards that, which should, as a Muslim, make you be suspicious of where these animals are coming from. You should already be suspicious of how they care for them and slaughter them and things of that nature. But should even be even more suspicious. So, right. If y'all want, we can close out, or if you want to keep going. Muhammad, you got anything to say? I hope you ain't over there snowing, Sheikh.
Nah, I ain't over here snoring. I don't have anything to add. I am kind of checking out though. I'm tired.
Yeah, they do have wild caught tilapia, but the tilapia that you see 90% of the time, they say that tilapia is like it like I mean people use these adjectives just to make it sound nasty to what you call it amplify or embellish what they got to say about the animal because they do it with
genetically modified.
They be like, oh, shrimp are like the cockroaches of the sea, and you know, and so they say the same thing about tilapia. So they do have wild caught tilapia, but most tilapia that we get here, that joint made in the lab. I'm not saying like when I'm saying it's made in the lab, it's made with people farming them and raising them. That's why you'll see even with fish, when you buy fish, it'll say farm raised fish. It'd be like, oh, farm raised or you know, or wild caught. Wild caught meaning that they were caught out in the wilderness, you know, out from the sea. You know, farm raised, they, you know, put in this big old pool and, you know, raised up that way. But now it's even worse because now they have animals like that. Like they're doing chicken like that now.
You see that big giant? They got some chickens about like this big off the ground, man.
Yeah.
Did you see them type of that joint smell? How they doing these chickens and stuff?
Like a chicken hawk.
Man, that joint look crazy, man. Look like a cartoon chicken from one of those Rocco Modern Life cartoons or something like that.
That's a good point right there. It says farm raised is raised out of the environment, shot up with hormones and antibiotics. Absolutely.
Yeah, as I said, I seen a chicken, man. That joint was about 8 feet tall. Well, you know, exaggerating, but it was a big giant chicken.
A hybrid of different fish.
Yeah, now you talking about if you're referring to tilapia, then yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so
you talking about the Brahma chicken? Where that joint from? Like somewhere out in Cambodia or something? The Brahma chicken?
I don't know, man. That joint was looking crazy, man. But if y'all tired, man, sorry for not coming in, man. As an Nikai here, I had to.
Nah, you good, brother. You good. You good.
No, you good. You good.
You good, man. Me and Sheikh held it down.
Oh, held it down. Abu Muhammad, you was in your Gucci bag, or you left him alone, man, using your wallet.
No. He was on his educator. He was the what Kievis call you, Professor Brown.
Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah. He's Encyclopedia Brown today.
He called me Encyclopedia Brown. One of my old timers, Rahimullah, Sheikh Fareed Rashid. He used to call me the Encyclopedia gang banging.
Yo, hold on. Hold on. I'm looking at this Brahma chicken. Boy, that joint look like frog on Leghorn. I say there, boy. That joint is huge.
That joint was humongous walking around, bro. I was like, what type of chicken is this?
That joint got muscles in the chest. I ain't trying to eat that joint, man. That look like the type of joint you go out there and get ready to go slaughter. You got a box. You got to shoot the five with them. Like, what's
that joint was walking around like he ran the farm. Get back
to the Comstock box and do the 52. Like, what's up, boy?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Chicken. I'm telling you, that joint look like one of them. Teenage Mutant Ninja Chicken.
Kiev is in the chat. He said, "Yep, Encyclopedia Brown."
Encyclopedia Brown. Check the joint out right here, though. Any animal raised outside the environment use GMO. Any food produced from the essence and artificial ingredients are GMO too. Now, it's like breeding of Flemish giant rabbits. Yeah, that joint like foghorn leghorn. I say that, boy. What you doing, boy? You gonna smack you? Shut up, boy. You going over here, boy.
Telling you.
Inshallah, but any more anything else, we can close out, inshallah. Go ahead,
All right.
Muhammad, give us one of those long.
Subhanallah.
Somebody ask you why you gotta recite Salatul Fatih, all right? Muhammad said, because I want to. That's so simple. That's a simple answer. That's some Imam Malik type stuff. Why you ever say that? Because I felt like it.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولك الكريم آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق وقاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهذه إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقداره العظيم. Everyone, don't forget to like, share the video. If you're on YouTube, like the video, share it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And inshallah ta'ala, I don't know what next week's topic gonna be. So we probably should talk about that Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, we hit the war room.
So inshallah ta'ala, everyone have a blessed evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. And check us next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.